Background and early life of Alexia Duval and Jonathan Duval. Alexia Duval Newell was born on February 18, 1988, into a family that carried a significant reputation in their community. From the very beginning, her life was shaped by structure, responsibility, and a strong sense of civic duty. Her mother, Isabel Foe, was not just a parent but a public figure in her own right, serving on the local city council. She was widely admired for her commitment to ethical governance, her consistent civic engagement, and her unwavering principles. In the eyes of the community, Isabel represented the embodiment of integrity and leadership, balancing professional responsibility with deep care for her family. Her public persona of competence and reliability set a high standard for both her daughters and the community at large. Jean-Pierre Afuyo, Alexia's father, brought a different kind of influence into her life. As the owner of a small cafe, he was deeply rooted in local culture. The cafe was more than a place to eat or drink. It was a hub where townspeople gathered to discuss politics, sports, and social matters. Enthusiasts of horse racing frequented the cafe, turning it into a social epicenter for a passionate niche. Jean-Pierre's cafe served as a subtle school of social intelligence, exposing Alexia from an early age to the nuances of human behavior, conversation, and observation. In this environment, Alexia learned the importance of interpersonal connections, listening, and understanding community dynamics, complementing the disciplined framework provided by her mother. Alexia had one older sister, Stephanie, with whom she shared a deeply bonded relationship. Stephanie, being the elder, often took on a protective, guiding role in Alexia's life. The sisters' relationship was defined by mutual support, loyalty, and shared values. Both girls were encouraged to pursue their ambitions with integrity, a principle their parents consistently reinforced. From a young age, Alexia demonstrated a strong sense of responsibility, a trait that made her stand out in the Fuyo household. She was conscientious, attentive, and committed to her endeavors, whether academic, athletic, or social. Her family noticed early on that Alexia combined drive with discipline, a rare combination that often hinted at future leadership qualities. Growing up in such a structured and nurturing environment, Alexia learned the significance of balancing ambition with ethics. Her parents emphasized that achievements were valuable only if they were earned honestly, and that true success required both skill and moral grounding. This dual focus on excellence and character shaped Alexia into a young woman who valued reliability, honesty, and perseverance. Her personality was marked by a vibrant energy, an eagerness to engage with the world, and a maturity beyond her years. Teachers, peers, and neighbors often remarked on her dedication, her ability to manage multiple responsibilities, and the ease with which she inspired trust. Jonathan Duval, in contrast, had a markedly different upbringing. Born on January 16, 1984, in the small town of Velle in the Osun region, Jonathan grew up in a large family as one of 6 children. His parents, Martin and an unnamed father, provided a household structured around working-class values. Martin worked as a child caregiver, dedicating her time to nurturing others, while his father labored in a factory, contributing to the household income through long hours and physical effort. Despite the challenges of a larger family, Jonathan's early childhood was largely stable, filled with the companionship of siblings and community interactions. However, his life was dramatically altered at the age of 13, when his father suddenly passed away from a heart attack. This unexpected tragedy profoundly affected Jonathan's emotional development. The loss of a paternal figure during early adolescence created a deep sense of insecurity and caution. Jonathan became increasingly reserved, introverted, and wary of drawing attention to himself. Socially, he adapted by keeping to familiar circles, avoiding conflict, and cultivating a self-contained emotional world. The sudden death of his father instilled a level of seriousness and vigilance that distinguished him from his peers, shaping both his behavior and his perspective on life. Despite his reserved nature, Jonathan found an outlet in sports, particularly soccer. Playing in local amateur leagues provided him with a way to connect with others while maintaining personal boundaries. Soccer became more than a pastime. It was a framework through which he could establish identity, learn teamwork, and experience the sense of achievement that his reserved personality often sought in solitude. Through sport, Jonathan developed social skills that were otherwise difficult for him to express, balancing his introspective tendencies with structured interaction. Academically, Jonathan pursued studies in information technology, a field that complemented his methodical, detail-oriented nature. Upon completing his education, he secured a position at a tech consulting firm. Colleagues described him as dependable, disciplined, and meticulous, a man who excelled at tasks requiring precision, consistency, and patience. While not a natural leader, Jonathan's conscientious approach to work earned him respect in professional settings. His reserved and cautious demeanor, combined with a meticulous work ethic, presented a persona of reliability, but also hinted at deeper, unexamined insecurities. The paths of Alexia and Jonathan crossed in the early 2000s, forming a relationship built on complementary traits. Alexia, energetic and assertive, provided a dynamic contrast to Jonathan's reserved, contemplative character. Their differences allowed them to balance each other, with Alexia offering social engagement and initiative, and Jonathan providing stability, careful consideration, and consistency. Over time, this initial attraction matured into a deep bond, marked by mutual understanding and the development of a first long-term, serious relationship for both. Their courtship gradually led to marriage. On July 18, 2015, Alexia and Jonathan were wed in a ceremony held at the Town Hall of Gray. The wedding was officiated by Isabel Fuo, Alexia's mother, who at the time was serving as a city council member. The event carried personal and public significance, symbolizing not only the union of two individuals, but also the affirmation of shared values and community respect. The marriage was celebrated by family, friends, and members of the local community, establishing the couple as a focal point of admiration and attention. Following the wedding, the couple honeymooned in the Pacific Islands, an experience reflecting both their adventurous spirit and the bond they had cultivated. Upon returning home, they settled in a house that had previously belonged to Alexia's grandparents. The couple undertook extensive renovations to adapt the home to modern living standards while preserving its familial heritage. This space became the foundation for their life together, a place of routine, domestic stability, and shared planning for the future. Outwardly, the marriage projected an image of harmony and balance. The couple engaged in regular physical activity, participated in community events, and maintained a healthy, active lifestyle. They often ran together, reinforcing their connection through shared hobbies, and were known to be disciplined, responsible, and considerate of each other. Friends and neighbors regarded them as an ideal pairing, reflecting complementary personalities and a shared dedication to wellness, routine, and social participation. However, beneath the surface, the couple faced challenges that would increasingly test their relationship. One of the most pressing difficulties was their struggle to start a family. While Alexia had expressed a strong desire for children, and Jonathan's own life experiences suggested he valued family deeply, fertility issues created tension. These struggles were a source of private stress, feeding insecurities and unspoken frustrations that neither fully addressed openly. In reflecting on Alexia's early life, one sees a portrait of a woman whose drive, energy, and discipline were balanced by moral grounding and social awareness. Jonathan's early life, by contrast, shows a man shaped by loss introspection and meticulous adherence to structure. Together, their backgrounds created a dynamic that, while outwardly complementary, contained vulnerabilities beneath the surface. Vulnerabilities rooted in psychological development, family experiences, and personality differences. These aspects of their early lives set the stage for the events that would unfold years later, revealing how deeply formative experiences, personal traits, and relational dynamics can converge in both positive and tragic ways. By understanding the nuances of their backgrounds, the structured, socially conscious upbringing of Alexia, and the cautious, reserved development of Jonathan, one gains insight into the contrasting influences that shaped their personalities. Alexia embodied confidence, empathy, and assertiveness. Jonathan represented caution, meticulousness, and internalized emotional control. Their marriage initially appeared to blend these qualities harmoniously, but underlying tensions stemming from past experiences, insecurities, and unmet expectations foreshadowed challenges that would later escalate into tragedy. Disappearance of Alexia Deval. An investigation. Saturday, October 28, 2017, began as a typical morning in the Deval household, yet it would soon mark the start of a devastating series of events that would shock not only the family, but an entire community. Alexia Deval Nuo, who had maintained a disciplined and active lifestyle, put on her running gear around 9:00 a.m. and set out for a familiar jogging route through the wooded trails surrounding Gray, a town in the Haute Sound department. These trails were well known to Alexia, a routine part of her training regimen, and for her, running was both a source of physical fitness and mental clarity. Jonathan Deval, her husband, reportedly left for work at his office, where he served as a technician at a local consulting firm. At that moment, nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Friends, neighbors, and co-workers would later recall that the morning began normally, with no signs of tension or conflict. Alexia had left home in her usual cheerful and determined manner, and Jonathan's departure for work suggested a day that would follow a predictable rhythm. However, as hours passed without her return, unease began to set in. By lunchtime, Alexia had not returned. Jonathan attempted to contact her cell phone repeatedly, but each call went directly to voicemail. Efforts to reach the home line similarly failed. The absence of communication was unusual, as Alexia was known to be reliable, conscientious, and always reachable during her routine runs. The unusual nature of her disappearance prompted Jonathan to call family members, beginning with Gregory Gay, the husband of Alexia's older sister, Stephanie. Jonathan explained that his wife had not returned home and was not answering her phone, immediately raising concern for the family. Alexia's disappearance deviated sharply from her predictable behavior, and her loved ones realized that this was more than a temporary delay. Without waiting for formal emergency intervention, Jonathan and Gregory initiated a search along Alexia's usual jogging path. They combed wooded trails, checked ravines, and carefully examined areas where she often ran, calling out her name in the hope of a response. The urgency of their search reflected both familial concern and the knowledge that Alexia's meticulous nature made her prolonged absence alarming. Meanwhile, Jonathan continued attempting to reach her by phone, but with no success. As the afternoon progressed, their search yielded no clues. The fear of an accident or foul play began to take hold. Hospitals, clinics, and emergency departments across the region were contacted, and each time the response was the same. No record of a patient matching Alexia's description had been admitted. By evening, with daylight fading and no new information, the family realized the seriousness of the situation and contacted law enforcement. Jonathan went to the local police station to file a report, providing an exhaustive account of Alexia's disappearance. He detailed the time she left for her run, her attire, the absence of her phone or identification, and her typical routines, all information that underscored the abnormality of her absence. Law enforcement approached the case with standard protocol for missing persons. Initial considerations included accidental injury during the run, such as a fall in a secluded area or an encounter with a dangerous individual. The possibility of voluntary disappearance was also noted, but quickly dismissed due to Alexia's dependable and responsible character. Investigators were immediately confronted with a central challenge. There were no leads, no witnesses, and no physical evidence to guide their actions. In the early hours, the family and authorities still held on to hope, considering the possibility that Alexia had become disoriented or temporarily lost. Yet, as the day progressed with no sign of her, the likelihood of a serious incident became increasingly evident. By Monday, October 30, 2017, the investigation entered a grim and irreversible phase. In a remote wooded area near Gray, Alexia's body was discovered. The location was overgrown, rarely frequented, and situated off the main trails, a place where accidental discovery would have been unlikely. Authorities noted that the body had been partially concealed with branches and leaves, suggesting an attempt to obscure it from view. The covering appeared hurried, indicating that the perpetrator had limited time or was interrupted, further pointing to a deliberate but chaotic effort to hide the crime. Forensic examination revealed the shocking extent of violence. Alexia's body exhibited multiple bruises, soft tissue injuries, and clear signs of blunt force trauma. Particular attention was paid to her neck, where marks consistent with strangulation were visible, confirming that her death was not accidental. Investigators determined that fire had been used to partially burn her body and clothing, an apparent attempt to destroy evidence. Although the fire was not fully effective, it demonstrated an intent to conceal the crime. Within hours, identification confirmed the victim as Alexia Deval, the 29-year-old woman reported missing just 2 days earlier. News of Alexia's death spread quickly, transforming a personal tragedy into a matter of public concern. Gray, a town accustomed to relative safety and low crime rates, faced a shocking reality. A violent act of unimaginable brutality had occurred within their community. Local media outlets rapidly picked up the story, with newspapers, television stations, and online platforms covering every detail. Residents reacted with fear and disbelief, struggling to reconcile the image of the friendly, health-conscious young woman with the violence she had endured. Social media amplified speculation and concern, with rumors circulating about potential motives and suspects. One detail that particularly unsettled both investigators and the public was the choice of location. The wooded trails where Alexia's body was found had been considered safe, regularly used by joggers, cyclists, and families. The knowledge that such a crime had occurred there shattered a sense of security. Local women, who had previously enjoyed solo runs in the mornings, began voicing fear and concerns about personal safety. Conversations within the community often returned to a single chilling possibility: the perpetrator might have been someone local. This suggestion of familiarity heightened anxiety and mistrust, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond the immediate family. Forensic evidence became a critical element in reconstructing the circumstances of Alexia's death. The partial burning of her body and clothing, combined with the use of a household blanket found in the Duval home, suggested that the crime had begun elsewhere, likely within the domestic space. Tire tracks discovered near the wooded area matched Jonathan Duval's vehicle, corroborated by GPS data placing him at the scene during the relevant time frame. Cell tower records further confirmed his proximity to the location. These findings collectively shifted investigative attention to Jonathan, challenging the narrative of a grieving husband and raising questions about his potential involvement. Jonathan's initial statements to police, while consistent in basic details, soon revealed discrepancies. Investigators noted inconsistencies in his timeline, unexplained injuries such as scratches and bite marks, and contradictions regarding the sequence of events. Jonathan claimed that he had been at work fixing a printer, yet surveillance footage and witness accounts could not fully verify the duration of his absence. These contradictions weakened his credibility and intensified scrutiny. Law enforcement conducted a meticulous investigation of the couple's home. Every corner, fabric item, and household object was examined. The discovery that the bed sheet used to wrap Alexia's body matched a set found in their home became a pivotal piece of circumstantial evidence, strongly suggesting that the crime had occurred within the domestic environment and that the body was subsequently transported to the woods. Investigators also considered the broader context, exploring alternative theories such as a random attack or third-party involvement. However, the weight of evidence increasingly centered on Jonathan, gradually transforming the case from a missing person investigation into a homicide inquiry with a primary suspect. Psychological profiling was employed to understand Jonathan's behavior, particularly his contradictory statements and erratic attempts to redirect suspicion. Evaluators noted traits such as sudden aggression, low self-esteem, emotional repression, and dependency on parental guidance. These insights helped explain the alternating patterns of admission and denial, as well as his efforts to deflect responsibility onto others. Jonathan's behavioral profile revealed a man capable of calculated, controlled violence under pressure, a stark contrast to his outwardly calm and reliable persona. The intensity of public attention further complicated the investigation. In a town where violent crime was rare, fear and speculation ran high. Families restricted children's movements, local joggers avoided solitary runs, and community meetings began addressing safety concerns. Media coverage amplified both the investigation and social anxiety, creating a highly charged environment in which every development was scrutinized. In this climate, investigators worked meticulously to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and reconstruct the events leading to Alexia's death. By the end of the initial investigative phase, the evidence indicated a deliberate and violent sequence of actions. The combination of forensic findings, GPS tracking, tire patterns, cell tower data, and the use of household items to conceal the body suggested premeditation, deliberate concealment, and intentional harm. The missing person case had transformed into a comprehensive criminal investigation, with a clear focus on establishing both the sequence of events and the responsibility for Alexia's murder. The disappearance and investigation of Alexia Duval's death highlighted the intersection of personal relationships, community trust, and forensic science. While outward appearances had suggested a stable, loving marriage, the evidence uncovered by authorities revealed a darker, more complex reality. The case became emblematic of the need for meticulous police work, psychological analysis, and community awareness in the face of domestic violence and unexpected tragedy. As investigators prepared to confront the prime suspect, the focus shifted toward accountability, evidence, and the pursuit of justice for a young woman whose life had been violently cut short. Trial, confessions, and aftermath. The discovery of Alexia Duval's body and the mounting evidence against Jonathan Duval transformed what had begun as a missing person case into a full-scale criminal investigation. The focus of law enforcement had shifted, and the quiet town of Gray now faced the shocking reality that a violent act had occurred within the community. The months following the discovery were marked by meticulous investigation, public scrutiny, and psychological evaluations aimed at understanding both the sequence of events and the mind of the person most closely connected to the victim, her husband, Jonathan. Once evidence began to implicate Jonathan, the authorities moved systematically. Standard procedure in cases of domestic homicide dictated that the spouse, especially one who had been present in the household, would be thoroughly interrogated. Jonathan initially maintained a straightforward narrative. He claimed that on the morning of October 28th, he had left for work around 10:30 a.m., spent time fixing a printer at his office, and had no knowledge of Alexia's whereabouts during her run. On the surface, his story appeared plausible. He presented himself as a grieving husband, cooperative with investigators, and deeply concerned for his missing wife. However, as investigators cross-referenced his statements with objective evidence, cracks began to appear. Scratches on Jonathan's neck and chest, along with bite marks on his arms, suggested a physical struggle that contradicted the casual nature of his account. When pressed about these injuries, he admitted only to a minor disagreement with Alexia the previous evening, insisting it had no lasting impact. Forensic experts, however, determined that the injuries indicated a far more intense altercation, consistent with a violent confrontation. Surveillance footage and cell tower data placed Jonathan in locations inconsistent with his statements, while tire tracks near the site where Alexia's body was found matched his vehicle. Additionally, the bed sheet used to wrap Alexia's body came from the Duval household, strongly suggesting that the fatal incident had begun at home and that the body had been transported to the woods afterward. The initial investigations highlighted a stark contrast between Jonathan's public persona and the emerging evidence. To friends, neighbors, and even the media, he appeared the picture of a devoted, grieving husband, yet the forensic and circumstantial evidence increasingly painted a different story. The investigative team, including forensic specialists, psychologists, and law enforcement officers, carefully compiled a profile of Jonathan's behavior. Psychological evaluations revealed low self-esteem, emotional repression, dependency on parental figures, and a tendency to bottle up feelings until they erupted in anger. This pattern of emotional suppression helped explain Jonathan's alternating admissions, denials, and attempts to shift blame. By 2018, the pressure on Jonathan intensified. Investigators had gathered overwhelming evidence linking him directly to Alexia's death, but he continued to vacillate in his narrative. Initially, he admitted to involvement, framing the incident as an out-of-control argument. Later, he attempted to shift blame onto his brother-in-law, Gregory Gay, and even suggested that Alexia's parents and sister were complicit in a cover-up. These claims were highly implausible and directly contradicted the substantial forensic evidence. The Fuyo family, initially supportive and welcoming, now faced the dual trauma of losing a loved one and being falsely accused by the very person who had portrayed himself as grieving alongside them. Law enforcement maintained focus on evidence rather than narrative manipulation. Investigators meticulously reconstructed the crime, analyzing tire tracks, GPS data, cell tower logs, and forensic findings. Expert testimony regarding the physical injuries, attempts to destroy evidence, and the pattern of concealment made it increasingly difficult for Jonathan to maintain his fabricated versions. The attempt to burn Alexia's body was a particularly significant point. It was not an impulsive act but a deliberate, calculated attempt to destroy biological and trace evidence, highlighting intent and premeditation. Psychological experts continued to evaluate Jonathan's mental state, noting obsessive tendencies, a need for control, ritualistic behaviors, and psychological impotence that contributed to escalating marital tensions. Communication breakdowns regarding attempts to start a family were identified as recurring stressors. Alexia's desire to conceive and Jonathan's perceived inability to respond effectively created friction, with messages exchanged between them indicating frustration and emotional strain. While these factors provided context, specialists consistently emphasized that they did not mitigate responsibility for intentional violence. By mid-2019, Jonathan's shifting narratives had reached a breaking point. A crime scene reenactment conducted on June 17th allowed investigators to observe him detailing the sequence of events step by step. He admitted to striking Alexia multiple times, between 5 and 10 blows to her face, before strangling her with his hands. He explained that, realizing the need to hide the body, he transported her to the wooded area and attempted to burn it to obscure evidence and hinder identification. This reenactment provided clear insight into the deliberate and systematic nature of his actions, disproving earlier claims of an accidental escalation. The trial began in November 2020 under strict public health measures, including transparent dividers and limited courtroom capacity. Despite these restrictions, the case attracted intense public attention, reflecting both the shocking nature of the crime and the town's desire for justice.